女士们、先生们，欢迎来到李世锋茶谈录。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Tea with Lee。那么今天呢，非常荣幸和开心能邀请到来自美国纽约的妮娜·亚辛博士，做客我们的访谈。我先会介绍一下妮娜·亚辛博士，用中文，然后再用英文介绍。那么现在我简单的给妮娜博士说一下我们大体的安排。那么 Dr. Nina, thank you so much for joining Tea with Lee, and I'm going to introduce you by the story and your CV, which I understood in Chinese about your little life story, and then please, and you can tell us brief, experience and life story from you in English. Okay, so 那么妮娜博士呢，可以说是真正意义上的世界公民。怎么样来说呢？妮娜博士出生在苏联，成长在希腊和叙利亚，并且在英国留学，后来呢又在新加坡做了博士后的研究，现在居住在美国的纽约。他经常在欧洲、美洲还有东南亚讲学。他的讲学的专注点在视觉艺术，还有在珠宝设计，并且从他整个人生履历，他对整个世界、整个人类的问题都非常的关注。这个可能听起来有些大，我给大家举一个简单的例子吧。他的涉及的这个议题从恐怖袭击到个人悲剧，这是一个非常有意思的地方。那么现在我简单的用英文给妮娜博士阐述一下我刚才用中文分享了什么。So, Dr. Nina, you are indeed the one whom can be called the world citizen. So you were born in Soviet Union and grew up in Greece, Syria, Cyprus, and studied in England. And you get your post Ph.D. in Singapore. Now you are living in New York, United States. Often you came to Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America to give the lecture on visual arts and jewelry designing. So you covered so big and so tiny stuff of the world to express the humanity. For example, from the terrorist attack to the personal tragedy. And beyond this all, you are a martial artist. 那么同时呢，妮娜
，Thank you. I'm far away from martial artist. Yeah.
Okay, please, Dr. Nina, could you share us a brief, like say, autobiography of yourself?
Okay, thank you for introduction, Master Lee. Yes, my name is Dr. Nina Dimitriadi Yassin. I was born as Nina Dimitriadi in Soviet Union. And during the Soviet Union, my parents were sent to work in Syria, in Aleppo, to build Euphrates Dam that provides electricity for 1/3 of the country. After that, I returned back to Soviet Union, and as my parents are Russians, but my father is Russian Greek and my mom is Russian German, so I grew up in understanding that we can mix, and countries have borders, but we can communicate and can find the ways how we can live together in one planet. Yes, so my father is an architect, or was an architect, and my mom is water engineer. After collapse of Soviet Union, there was no jobs available for more than $50. So as my father was Greek, my father moved to Greece to trying to find a job as an architect. So in Thessaloniki, he lived for some time, and I also traveled there. I didn't transfer my university into the University of Saloniki because I decided that my university is great. I graduated Moscow State Pedagogical University in the Department of Teaching Fine Art and Technical Drawing. And as the Soviet Union by that time was completely into the state of disparity, there was no job for artists, or it was very strange ones. I went to England. Well, first I worked in a business a bit to make money, and then I moved to England to study MA, M.Phil, and then later Ph.D. In the area of arts, where I practice as a visual artist. But for my PhD, I concentrated my attention on sociology of visual artists. So I tried to understand why the artists cannot make enough money to sustain their life from what they do, despite their great education, great abilities, great networking, everything great, but they still need to do other jobs to sustain being an artist. So I did all this research for 6 years that proved that the artists and other few professional, establishment or professionals like sportsmen, like scientists, like politicians, religious professionals, and I will not name a few other professionals. So, but they are sharing the same vocational path. This path makes us to choose our career not because we're paid, but because we cannot live without that. So we follow that profession because of calling. Unfortunately, the market around us somehow figured out that we will do it without being paid well. And we allow ourselves also to be exploited in some ways. And we continue doing our work for free or at the minimum cost. There are a few winners in the market, of course, as a small percent, and they usually do other job parallel to visual arts, or they cover with the visual arts or other professional establishment like sport and entertainment and political career. But in us, in my job in visual arts, there are a lot of people who comes from different fields, not related to arts, and they use art as a cover or as something they do in parallel with creating the objects of art. Yeah. So then when I figure out that we cannot be called professionals, we are just an artist who are going to be partly exploited and partly we cannot live. So I need to figure out other way to do the money. So I continue researching, and I moved to Singapore to study why in Singapore there were no prolific visual artists, or there's not so much of the market there for visual arts. And after working there, I returned back. As I'm married with an American, I returned back to the United States. By that time, I did have 2 kids, and I needed to have some other things to do to make my living. So I have a jewelry studio. Jewelry was always something I love and I play with, and I do design jewelry in different for different people, for usually it's custom made. Yeah, so I cut it to the person who orders the jewelry for themselves or for loved ones. Yeah, it's called Nina11 Jewelry. Yeah.
Cool. And thank you for sharing about your profession on visual arts, and also your paper and theme is somehow focusing on why the fine artists, they have great education, they have the diploma with the master degree, doctor degree, whatever, and they have good connection, but why they couldn't make a living by their own profession and their passion, which is arts, the fine arts. And I hope that somehow you can share with us. I mean, you are sharing with us now, but you know later when you travel to China, you can share with the people face to face. And this is a question, I think, a worldwide question, because some of my friends, they are artists as well. And some of them, they already changed their profession. For example, like sculpture artists, the painting artists, they change their profession to go working in advertisement company, to work like a delivery, worker, or anything, particular in after pandemic genre. So I think your sharing will be much more appreciated and interesting to give them some suggestion how we can figure out to live by our profession and passion, which we worked for the whole of our life. And secondly, the question is, why you choose martial arts as your hobby or as a way to express yourself? And for how long did you practice?
It's partly, I think, can be genetic. In my family, all four of my grandparents participated in the Second World War, and I'm sure in the previous wars. So all my four grandparents, included women, are very strong, and they actually did fight in battles. And grandma, one of them was a surgeon in action, and other one was in the Stalingrad battle, that they didn't evacuate the citizen out of the battle. So her job was to save the family. And we did have also ancestors who were in the military regiments. So plus, I think by DNA test, my muscle composition is more closer to the martial artist rather than, for example, to a runner, marathon runner. So it might be that understanding that the woman can fight was available to me from the childhood. And then one day, I think around when I was 8 years old, I saw a first film with Bruce Lee. And it blew my mind because I was a big fan of the little kittens or cats. And suddenly I see the man who can transform his presence into in the film, not as a human, but in between the animal that is human and the cat, for example. Yeah. So I was little, I didn't know too much, but even the sound that came from him was reminding me of non-human origins. And I said, wow, this is incredible. I want to be the same. I want to do the same. And then I saw Jackie Chan, and that was big fun. And I still adore his movies. Doesn't matter what he does, it just brings me a smile. And understanding that the same craft that Bruce Lee did can be with a sense of humor, which was the next level, I think, after like a serious Kung Fu fighting. And since then, all my life, I was looking for finding the good practice of Kung Fu around the world. But in Soviet Union, the only closest to Kung Fu martial arts was Judo. And the judo club was not far away from my home. And my brother by that time was studying judo. So one day my father came to visit the teacher before the new year in September begins. And the teacher looked at me and said, "Oh, that's Andrew's brother." And my father said, "No, it's sister." I had a very short haircut. My dad used to cut my hair like a zero. The teacher looked at me and said, "Do you want to join as a boy?" I said, "Of course I want to join as a boy." So he said, "Your name will be Nikolai, and from now on you're going to train with me." And from September, so the new academic year, I started to train as a boy in the boys' club, Azelka. And it's a big club. It used to be a big car production called Azelka, Moskvich. That did have a big club. There was a different sports club, included sambo and judo. So I joined the judo club, and I was trained as a boy for some time until I started growing up as a woman. And it was more difficult to cover up, yes. And as quick as my identity was revealed, I lost my best friend. That was a personal disaster, because he couldn't really understand how his best friend became in one day from the boy he knows to the girl he doesn't. So that's one thing. And then I did meet in Moscow some student of Fang Ji Chan, is a Chan style Tai Chi, and he introduced me a bit to Qigong and basics of Tai Chi 24 form. When I moved here in the United States, one day on Broadway, I just walked by with the stroller, and I saw the plate on the wall that was saying Bulo Kungfu. That's my Kung Fu school that I studied for a long period of time under Sifu Polko or Bulo. That was my all answers to all the questions I was searching. I found the school. I found the martial school I want to practice. That's how I ended up with loving the martial arts and practicing martial arts. Yes.
Oh, that it's as you said, your story of martial arts with a sense of humor, and I can imagine, because in China we have similar story. At that moment, when the people with closed mindset, they even the boys in the family can be taught. They don't teach girls. They see the long history to tell. So I think somehow I understand you because I have this background, and I know the history of martial arts, particularly the Chinese martial arts. But yeah, maybe for the other people, they couldn't really understand, because to practice something you need to hide your gender or whatever. And thank you for sharing. I think your story will make many young laugh. I mean, because they were wondering what's the kind of genre or the period of the history it was, to practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And the second is you mentioned the personal tragedy. So, okay, so somehow I understand you would like to cover from terrorist attack. Now, as you said, you mentioned that one of your parents, they are German, Russian. So in Second World War, Germany and Russia, they fight. I mean, in the big picture to look up.
Yes.
And now, yes, the terrorist attack, of course, this could be another topic and talk to dive deeper, because I'm so into this, and also just a couple of weeks ago, one of the biggest terrorist attack happened in Russia, right? In Moscow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but here I would like to, from the little thing to go bigly. So you mentioned from your little story, your best friend whom, you know, the teenager realized that, you know, my best friend whom I training every damn day, from suddenly, and he became a girl, and you know, it's hard to cover the emotion and the feelings. So you said this is a personal tragedy. So how you define the term personal tragedy? Or, you know, we are personal. You are a person, I'm a person. We have, you know, the other individual, they are person. We have our life. And as we shared, the life could be like, I mean, like a plan, like middle way, but could be as, you know, in a happy ending, maybe it's called a comedy, and it could be like a tragedy. So Leo Tolstoy used to say, the happy family is always same, and the unhappy family unhappy in different ways. I think from Anna Karenina, somehow the very beginning of Anna Karenina. So how you define personal tragedy and how we avoid, or don't really get the personal tragedy. We can make it lighter, like get a personal unluckiness, but not a tragedy. Sometimes when the tragedy happened, the thing cannot be recovered.
Yes, yes, it can be a broken glass. It's a theory of broken glass,
Sure.
where if something happens to you, the people breaks the glass, and then every passing by person start to rubbish into that broken glass opening. So they will through the rubbish, and more or less sooner or later, the space is full of rubbish that people piled up just because they passed by and saw it opened.
Yeah.
So that's where Kungfu or martial arts comes handy. People like me and possibly like you, we're not afraid to risk. We're big risk takers. We like to move around. We don't really care too much about others' opinion. We do, but we know that what we do, it has purpose. And people have a lot of stories, a lot of opinions, but you need to do your own. So here the martial arts works for us, and that's partly we are practicing it because it allows to be free from being afraid of daring. So we are pretty courageous people to do whatever we want. Maybe partly because we are kind of mood swingers and semi-bipolar. That's very often happens to artistic people in arts and martial arts. It might be that I'm fascinated with personal disasters because when something happens to you and you don't know how to express it, or it's boring to express, oh, this happens and stuff, and sometimes you communicate by doing something to remember about your pain, and you express that pain or the pain of others visually. And that releases your inside feeling that you need to talk about that. You know, some people need psychiatrists to talk about their disasters, their personal disasters. You can't avoid personal disasters. We all do have them. Abuse, family, friends, you know, you name it. You go there and everyone you find in the world will be abused some way, or they abuse themselves. So it's inevitable that the personal disaster is unavoidable, but the Kung Fu and the martial arts give you the way to deal with that. For example, we'll give you example, like you can react on different things differently depending are you before or after the training? For example, when I just started doing Kung Fu, just that strolling point with the baby in a stroller, with a dripping air conditioner from skyscrapers of New York, will be annoying to me. So some shitty water sprinkle on me from like God knows where. After the training, I will pass the same way, and it will be refreshing spring water flushing on me, and I will be very happy of receiving that refreshment. So it's up to you how you feel, but it's also up to your endorphins, how the serotonin works, how the chemical works in your head. So we can talk as much as we want, but tomorrow you will feel depending on your inside health. So to avoid personal disasters, I think the first and all we need to consider about our health inside. And it starts with the brain and how we train our brain and how we train our muscles. And usually it's related to the diet. So you asked me before about some regrets. I would think that I don't have too many regrets, but I regret not to know about good diet and how to maintain your more or less regimen of the diet to meet the older age, because in a young age we can eat wherever and we feel energetic, happy, and wherever it's okay. But in the end of the life, or closer to the end, it starts to really not go so easy on you. So that's one thing, that to avoid disasters, I think we need to reconsider our diet.
What do you mean our diet?
Diet, what you eat.
Okay, our diet, okay.
So what you intake on a daily basis, what you drink, how you sleep. And the second is how you check your own health. So you need to really feel what works and what doesn't work and adjust to your needs. Yeah.
So
that's
you mean
one of the way how you can avoid personal disasters.
So you mean the diet? You mean the food?
Yes.
Let's say, and which somehow you mean like take care of your health. If you don't take care of health, you can easily get the personal tragedy which cannot be recovered or rebuilt. Also, the diet, you also, do you mean somehow that the knowledge you are going to take, or the conversation, or the influence you are going to eat by your brain, is somehow like this as well, or you focus on?
You can start with a diet simply of intaking the organic.
You mean how to avoid?
You
can start from your diet, from the food you are. Okay.
The food you eat is going to make your brain also operate differently. Your energy will flow differently. So if you eat God knows what, and there's a lot of fat in that and a lot of chemicals that are processed food and stuff, more or less you will start struggling with different issues that is related to your health. As quick as happens, you will not understand why it's happening to you. So I think one of the regrets I have of not knowing the how it's all working in reality towards like how diet influencing our body, especially the diet for the martial artist, because as quick as we start training, we eat a lot because we need to burn energy. Especially we need to eat even more than a normal athletes. Why? Because you use your brain when you exercise in martial arts. It's not a physical activity where you can just run or body lift. Yeah, you do it partly, but when you do martial arts, you engage your brain to know your next move, which is pretty abstract, and I think it's pretty creative. So you use your brain that eats a lot of energy more than actually muscles when you start to think about your next move. Then if it is so, if you're eating a lot of food after training, as quick as you stop training or you're training less, you get used of intaking this amount of food in your stomach, and then you actually cannot adjust your diet easily because the stomach cannot, it feels that it's not full, so you start eating more and more. And even if you're not training, you already get used of eating more. So a lot of athletes you will see in martial arts, they start to put the weight if they don't train enough, or they reduce the training. And it's very difficult to maintain that balance of how much you eat, how often you eat, what quality, and what you can eat to be able to train well and long. Yeah, so I think that as a martial artist, to avoid personal tragedies, you need to reconsider your diet and your health and take care about it prior to all the other things you might wish to do.
Okay, cool. And thank you for a very practical answer and a very personal and common answer for, you know, to give the majority people a way how to avoid the personal tragedy. Because, you know, for example, like the martial artists or the athletes, or no matter even they are not, but they don't really care about their diet, what they eat. Later they get, you know, sickness, you know, on their body. And so what you said, it can really help to avoid the personal tragedy, in at least in this way, and whom many people can get idea from your answer. And to close our question, I'm wondering, as we shared, okay, you are the world citizen, you grow up in different places, and so, and you have different background, the culture, the history. Do you think this is somehow also a personal tragedy, or it's fine? Nowadays, for example, like me, I never ever come out of China until I am 27. So which means I stay in one place for a long time to be nurtured by this land, by the history, the culture of China. I mean, like the tree, to grow up the tree, you must have the solid root. But of course, I realize I have something which not so good to stay one place for so long, which I have a closing mindset. I don't know what is happening in this world. For you, since you are very young, you can see the world in different land, different culture, I mean, different history. But in a sort of way, do you feel that you are somehow like for example, like the plants in the water? It is, there is no root. Have you ever doubted like, so whom you are, or which nationality you belong to, or, I mean, this shakeable, you know, life or mindset? We can discuss later. And yeah, just to
your personal identity, yes. Yeah. I totally agree that when you are part of different cultures, your personal identity is very vague. You can be pigeonholed. A lot of people try to put me, oh, you're Russian, or you're from America, or, you know, if you think about it, the whole construction of cultures is a product of art and thinking in a cultural way, like language, everything. We created our own environment, and we prefer that environment because we're accustomed to that environment. So even if you will go somewhere else and live somewhere else, you will be what you like and what you experience and what language is inside of your head. But in my head, there are a few languages, so I can switch depending on environment. Does it give me stability of who I am? Of course, it's very difficult because you need to adjust. So your tree that you plucked out and you transfer it and plug in another soil, if it's adjusting well to the ground, cool, it will grow there. But I will tell you, it doesn't matter where you go. The question is how your roots will adjust into the ground. So if you plan, or any of us did have a plan to move somewhere and to start with, expect that the point of abrupting and relocating is not pleasant. And tourism is one thing, and the permanent residency is different thing. And I will tell you, the human as a species does not really differ from one place to another place. You go in one place, we eat, we caca, we multiply, we sleep, yes. We entertain ourselves to forget that we're animals first. And then we go on loving, so to protect our kids, our next generation, to survive. So kind of family-orientated species to keep our offspring safe for some time, at least 3 years. And then we need to move to another place and multiply more. That's according like natural laws, because the genes should be mixed with other genes. So to have more survival of that species, we need to have I don't know, more partners. But we created this system where we keep together as long as possible to that our offspring will be strong enough to go by themselves and to protect them better. Well, you go to any country, it will be more or less the same regulations, the same rules. The question is, where do you prefer?
And how you rooted it.
Yeah, so where do you prefer? After looking at around many countries, I understood that it's up to you to choose where do you like, what do you do, and be happy within that circumstances, which is a Kung Fu. It is a skill of survival, and to adjust to that situation, like your stance, is up to you how well you're trained to relocate. And of course, you will be homesick, but then it's a training to do not be homesick, to be able to be alone or to be with people you don't like, and be happy with them, just.
Sure, definitely. Actually, I'm asking this question because many kids nowadays, because people are moving around the world. So for the kids, they move from one school, maybe after 2 or 3 years, they need to move another school, or even in 1 year, because the job of the parents changes, they need to change. So I asked also for the young kids, and because of time, we will do the tea with Lee, with Dr. Nina once more, maybe twice more, 3-4 times more. And here I would like to say that thank you so much, Dr. Nina, to share your great story and life experience. And for anyone who are interested in